obviously bought the stove, or you're thinking about buying a stove, and obviously you're going to have to light it. And that's what we're going to do now, lighting the stove. There are different ways of lighting it. Some people like to light it with paper, newspaper, as my mother used to do every day. Roll up a piece of newspaper, tie half a knot in it. If you screw up lumps of paper, it takes all the room in the stove and you've got no kindling. So bits of newspaper with knots in it, or if you're lazy like me, I prefer firelighters. Firelighters is what I like. And kindling. Lots of people chop kindling down to tiny little things, which I'm sure is great occupational therapy, but completely unnecessary. We just use coarse chopped up pallet wood. And then from this, we're going straight on to bigger wood, bigger lumps of wood. This might be a minute or so later, but we're getting on to bigger lumps of wood once we've got the fire going. We're going to start lighting the fire now. Obviously your stove's ready, cleaned. I always put a piece of pallet wood on the bottom of the stove, and then I go straight into building a teepee of wood about it. A couple of nails in the wood does no harm whatsoever, makes it nice and useful. If you're burning just wood, don't clean the stove out. Wood burns best on its own ash. You don't need to clean it out. You only need to clean it out when the ash becomes overwhelming. Make a nice little teepee of your wood. It's the edges that the fire gets a grip of. Making a gap for your firelighter, or if you're using your paper, you put your paper underneath and then build this on top. So having got your nice little teepee going, one firelighter, light the firelighter, and put it in the wood. Vents should be fully open on the stove. On this one it's a one control, that's fully open. Push the door all the way to so the catch touches it but doesn't allow the door to shut. So we've just begun, firelighter, a few bits of pallet wood. The flames are picking up, the top wood's already burning, but a lot of the flame is being wasted going the wrong way. So I'll put on my super duper stove gloves, stop you burning yourself, gently open the door so you don't suck all the flame out. I've got also my smaller big wood to get the benefit of that flame. So we're already putting bigger wood on, and we'll just shut that down for a bit longer. The door is not closed, the catch is touching the side of the stove, so I've got full air coming in around the side of the stove, and the air vents on the stove are fully open. So we'll just let that carry on with that for a moment. We're only a few minutes from when we actually started laying the fire. The fire's going along, it's popping and cracking already. We'll put some more wood on. The wood has to be properly dry and seasoned. This is a moisture meter which tells us how much moisture there is in the wood. You push that into the end of the wood and it comes up with numbers. And this one here is coming up at 16% moisture. I don't know if you can see the colours on there from the green into the amber. I reckon anything under 20% is fine. I think 20% is too wet. 16%, 14%, 10% is excellent. The wetter the wood, the less the heat out of the fire. Put that on. Again, with the gloves you can stick your hand in a flaming stove, push the door to. We're now just coming up to 6 minutes. You can see how the fire is raging, and that's good because everything's burning away quite nicely. Now to test whether it's ready to shut the door, you don't want the fire to sink very much. So if you shut the door, the fire has calmed down but not very much. So that's now ready to leave the stove door closed. I've still got the vents fully on. If you can see on top of the stove, we've got a stovepipe thermometer. Now, if you're having difficulty with your stove, this is probably an essential bit of kit to get. because that tells you if your stove is operating at the correct temperature. And the red arrow, because we just lit it, it's just over 100 degrees, should be in the silver zone. If it's below that, it causes sooting and tarring in your chimney. If it's above that, it's really a little bit too hot. The air wash system's coming in, you can see the smoke and stuff circulating round inside the stove. It will smoke until it gets hot enough to run things nicely. Right, we're less than 9 minutes from when we started laying the fire. The stove door is properly closed, the fire's roaring away, we're nearly up to temperature, and we can start shutting the stove down. And this one we push it in all the way. The stove sort of runs out of air, it almost dies, it will die right down, but we want to give it a little bit of air and just the right amount to keep it burning actively. And just a little bit of air, so that keeps that going. So that's basically all there is to lighting a stove. We're less than 10 minutes from when we were putting the newspaper or the kindling or the firelighters in. The stove is burning away quite nicely. I've put more wood on now because it's a good hot fire. I can fill the stove up and then I can walk away and forget it for a couple of hours. But it's burning nicely, temperature spot on. We're in the nice clean burn territory, and that's it. Less than 10 minutes. That's how you light your stove. Right, what we've just shown you lighting our beautiful Chesney's stove that we've got fired up and going now is exactly the same for all these other stoves. It doesn't matter what make of stove you purchase, the means of lighting it is exactly the same. And as you can see, we've got an absolutely huge range of different stoves, and they all go around the corner as well. Different prices, different products, different looks. So whatever stove you end up buying, this is the only information you need.